Now, before we start, I should point out that unlike what this intro might imply, I don't hate this episode. Waldo moment is only bad by Black Mirror standards. Like, let's put it this way. Let's say you were at a fancy 5-star restaurant and before you were a bunch of delicious and beautiful looking dishes, but among them there's a sandwich, just a plain old sandwich. There's nothing particularly wrong with the sandwich, but compared to all the dishes beside it, it's pretty shitty, right? Well, that's what this episode feels like to me. If it was any other show, this would have been at best an okay episode, but the fact that it's Black Mirror makes it a lot worse. I think this decrease in quality might have to do with the fact that the idea for this episode was supposed to be for another show entirely called Nathan Barley, which really shows because this episode doesn't feel very Black Mirror-ish, at least not until the end, which we'll talk about later. But first, let's talk plot. The plot here is that Jamie, a washed-up comedian, voices Waldo, a comical cartoon from a talk show called Tonight for 1 Week Only. Because of his overwhelming popularity, Waldo is getting his own spin-off show. And to promote the upcoming pilot, they enter Waldo into the local election. Waldo's whole shtick is that he's a cartoon, and cartoons aren't supposed to swear. Throughout the entirety of this episode, I didn't laugh or even chuckle a single time at any of his jokes, and I think that's supposed to be the point. You're not supposed to find Waldo funny, you're supposed to find the fact that people find him funny to be horrifying. Everyone finds Waldo to be funny except for Waldo himself, aka Jamie. He gets no creative fulfillment from doing the Waldo character because he knows it's lowbrow shitty humor. And honestly, you have the groundwork for an interesting character with Jamie, but we don't really get to know him all that well, and because of that, he comes off as being underdeveloped and at times just plain unlikable, really. Here's what I find interesting about him though. When Jamie was Waldo, there was at least some humanity to him. For example, Waldo's speech is not a shitty joke, it's an actual human complaint on the state of the modern political system.
Something's gotta change. No one trusts you lot. Because they know you don't give a shit about anything outside your bubble. What about your mate Gladwell, the kiddie flasher? You knew him for 20 years, did you not know what he was like?
No, of course not.
Yeah. Because you're all just front like him, sly and pretending, and in that way you're all the same.
To me, his speech encapsulated the frustration many people have with politics. The way it feels like no matter who you vote for, things will not change. You know, real opinions. However, when Jack took over the character, the little humanity Waldo had was gone. And I know this might be a bit of a stretch, but I think the episode is trying to tell us that the one thing holding Waldo back from being, as this guy puts it,
Waldo may be the perfect political figurehead,
is that humanity. When Waldo has that humanity, he loses the election, but after he loses the little humanity he had, he starts winning. You know, I think there's something there, but honestly, I think I might be grasping at straws here, so who knows. Now, let's address the elephant in the room. As much as I dread it, we have to talk about politics, so help me God. A lot of people have been saying that Waldo is basically supposed to be Trump. And honestly, the similarities between them are kind of scary. Like, this episode came out way before Trump running for president was even a thing, but there's a staggering amount of similarities between the two. For example, in both cases, nobody thought they would actually win.
Which Republican candidate has the best chance of winning the general election?
Of the declared ones, right now, Donald Trump.
No one's actually going to vote for him, that's not the point.
We won't win, though.
No, of course you won't win.
They were both popular TV personalities before their campaigns. Both took jabs at people's ratings.
You're snooty for a glorified Punch and Judy man, Phil. You know you're gonna get your best ratings in months because I'm here. To even get close to the figures I'm gonna pull in for you tonight, you'd have to fuck a prawn sandwich live on air.
Mr. Trump,
Are you going to ask anybody else? Every single question comes to me.
Mr. Trump,
I know I'm good for the ratings, but it's a little bit ridiculous.
And lastly, Waldo is supposed to represent the anti-politician ideology, an ideology that many Trump voters had. Like, a lot of people voted for Trump because he seemed like a real person, because he wasn't your typical fake politician. In the episode, Liam Monroe is supposed to represent the quote-unquote fake politician, but honestly, he doesn't really work as that because he doesn't say anything remotely controversial and gives off the impression of being a smart, rational person who strongly believes in his ideologies. For instance, the speech he gives about Waldo in the debate is amazing. It perfectly encapsulated what I thought of Waldo throughout the entire episode. Like, honestly, I'd vote for him, dude.
See, this is the thing. It's easy what he does. Now, he mocks. And when he can't think of an authentic joke, which is actually quite often, he just swears. Prove me wrong. Speak, Waldo.
Oh, go fuck yourself.
Oh, and while we're on the subject of his speech, in it, he reveals that Jamie is the one operating Waldo. And Jamie acts all shocked and pissed that people now know who was operating him, but was that like a secret? Wouldn't his name show up in the credits of every episode of Tonight for 1 Week Only? Like, as far as I could tell, they never established it as some sort of secret or even mention it before this point, so it's kind of weird. Anyways, back to topic. Well, there's a bunch of similarities to Trump. I think Waldo would be more in line as the joke politicians that we see in elections, like these nuts or Harambe, for example. So what this episode asks is, what if these nuts was actually a political threat to, you know, real politicians? And honestly, I like this concept. You could do some great satire with it, but the episode doesn't really do anything interesting with it. This episode just felt sort of incomplete, I guess would be a good way to put it. Like, it felt like a rough draft, not like the actual finished script, you know? It feels like there's a chunk of episode missing. Like, the episode ends with Waldo losing the election, and then there's a time skip, and then boom, Waldo's now Supreme World Leader. Like, what? How? What happened between here and there? Like, hell, give us a montage like in White Bear or something, anything. Honestly, it just feels like they just added this in to give it a more Black Mirror-esque feeling. To wrap things up, I think there's a lot of potential in this concept, but for it to truly shine, it needed a longer runtime. We needed to see Waldo's rise to power, and we needed to see more of Jamie and his struggles. And honestly, it's a real testament to the show's quality that this is the worst episode it has to offer, because I still think there's a lot to appreciate here. Like, for example, the acting is great, the music fits the episode very well as always, and the animation on Waldo is spot on. Like, did you know that the thing Jamie uses to control Waldo is like a real thing that exists? Like, I had no idea. Like, that's a really nice touch. Anyways, as I said before, I don't hate this episode. I'm just disappointed by it, and I just wish that they would have refined the script and given it a longer runtime. And yeah, that's that. Thanks for watching.